And guys, in this next news story, the ringleader of an organised crime group which attempted to smuggle 139 kilos of coke into the UK in a consignment of bananas has been jailed for 11 years. Ali from Birmingham was arrested by NCA officers at Heathrow Airport in January this year, minutes before he was boarding a flight to go to Istanbul in Turkey, where he was living at the time. His criminal associates had previously been apprehended whilst unloading a shipping container they believed to contain the £11 million worth of drugs at a storage company in Coventry in April 2022, and they're now serving a total of 62 years in prison. Ali deliberately distanced himself from the operation, choosing instead to instruct the group via WhatsApp voice and text messages to his lieutenants Mirjant Shahu from Birmingham and Robert Ball from Cheshire. Ball sent images of the container in situ to Ali just before the packages were unloaded. The container had arrived at London Gateway Port from Ecuador a few days before, and here, unbeknown to the gang, and check this out, Border Force officers who were working with the NCA found the packages in the roof area. They actually removed them, put dummy packages in there, and resealed the container. A few days later, Ball, who was found to be acting on behalf of the Albanian organised crime group, contacted the shipping firm to ask them to release 4 containers, including the one he thought contained the drugs. He arranged for a transport company to collect and move the containers to the storage company in Coventry. These movements were watched by NCA surveillance officers. Ali, Ball and Shahu met at a Costa Coffee in King's Heath in Birmingham on the morning of the 15th of April 2022 to make the final arrangements. Ball and Shahu then travelled to Coventry, where they met with their accomplices Florijan Ibra and Arman Kaviani. Ball and Shahu instructed Ibra and Kaviani, who used a forklift truck, to get on top of the container. They tore open the roof using a crowbar and started to unload the packages, happily believing that it actually contained the drugs and they were going to become rich. But as they did, so did the NCA and police officers move in to arrest them. Kaviani and Ibra attempted to flee but were apprehended. All 4 men were later charged with importation of coke offences and jailed for a total of 62 years at Warwick Crown Court in November last year. Ali was convicted by a jury at Coventry Crown Court yesterday following a 3-week trial and is due to be sentenced on the 16th of October. NCA Ops Manager Paul Orchard said there is no doubt that Sajid Ali pulled the strings for this group, employing Ball and Shahu to oversee the dirty work of extracting what he thought were packages of cocaine from the shipping container. Had this load not been intercepted and seized, it would have been worth millions of pounds on the streets of the UK. Ali was in this for profit, but this criminality also comes at a huge human cost. Coke fuels violence and exploitation, including gang culture, firearms and knife crime in the UK and around the world. Said removing this consignment from circulation will have had a sizable blow to this criminal network, preventing them from generating profits that would have been invested in further criminality. Said we are determined to dismantle major international crime groups like this one from top to bottom. Carolyn Hughes, the specialist prosecutor for the CPS, said this was a major operation which saw a vast quantity of drugs seized before they could reach the community streets. Throughout the investigation, Sajid Ali actually refused to admit his involvement in this large-scale drug operation. However, the evidence carefully pieced together by the NCA and the CPS demonstrated the leading role he played in this importation. Said the CPS is committed to working with investigators such as the NCA to ensure that criminal drug gangs are brought to justice. And in this next news story, a man who repeatedly handed drugs to an undercover officer was told by a judge that he should have known better. Sate Joby, who's 33, was one of many arrested as part of Greater Manchester Police's Operation Vulcan into criminal activity in the Piccadilly Gardens in the city centre. After being approached by the officer, Joby handed over the number for a drugs line he went on to supply the cop crack. During one day, the surveillance, he was found to have made 17 deals with customers, and he pleaded guilty to being concerned with the supply of Class A drugs and was jailed for over 3 years at Manchester Crown Court. The court heard, as part of the investigation by Greater Manchester Police into the sale of drugs in Piccadilly Gardens, undercover officers were tasked with finding telephone details of drug lines around the area. Joby was one of those using the line and was approached by an undercover officer on January the 24th this year. The officer made inquiries about drug supply and was passed a mobile phone number with the name Joby. Prosecutor said around 1:30 in the afternoon, the undercover officer called the number, and then the defendant walked from a street toward the officer at an area in Piccadilly Gardens. The officer then asked the defendant, and they did the exchange, and it was later found to be crack. And when there were 3 other further occasions when the undercover op called the drugs line was supplied with drugs. However, on March the 31st, Joby was observed through surveillance making 17 deals, and this later led to Joby being arrested at his home. Officers found drugs, mobile phones, SIM cards, and just under £15,000 in cash. Analysis of the mobile phones revealed that he was supplying drugs to other dealers. Joby, who was said to have had some mitigating circumstances, said his marriage broke down and then he was remanded into custody, and he has since applied for asylum to remain in this country. He said if he's deported and he accepts that he's not been doing anything to support the community, and they also said that his involvement in drug dealing activities was too tempting and he was on the downward spiral at the time. He says his hope is that he can go back home, go back to his country and start his life. Also said drug dealing has become an endemic associated with social degradation and crime, the judge said. The judge said what should be a vibrant cultural part of the city centre is now seen as a no-go zone because of the drug dealing there and you associated of crime that goes with it. You should have known better. So Joby was jailed for 3 years and 4 months. He was also made subject of a criminal behaviour order for 5 years, banning him from the city centre. And in November, the prosecutors are going to try and claw back the criminal cash that he made from this enterprise. And guys, in this next news story, a man from Bristol has been sentenced to 7 years in jail for firearms offences and drugs possession. Prince Winter from Bristol was sentenced to 7 years in prison at the Inner London Crown Court. Winter pleaded guilty to possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life in May 2024. He was also found guilty of the following offences: possession of a prohibited weapon, possession of ammunition without a firearm certificate, and possession of a Class B drug. Whilst on patrol in October 2023, local officers stationed at Bermondsey observed Winter riding an e-scooter and noticed him recklessly running a red light, posing a significant risk to public safety. Concerned about his dangerous behaviour, the officers decided to follow him. As they approached to intervene, they witnessed Winter discard an object under a nearby car, and on further investigation, officers discovered that he had thrown away a black handgun in an attempt to conceal it. Officers then immediately arrested him for firearm possession, and a search by officers also found Class B drugs. As I said, he's been jailed for 7 years. So guys, there's a number of stories coming out from the streets of the UK. Once again, if you already haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Please give this video a little like. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.